Alan has been summoned by his father, who is the head of the Westfeld house. For the past 15 years, he has not leveled up beyond level 1 and has received no blessing from God in a recent ceremony. Deeming him a failure, he is banished from the house. Alan seems to be okay with it. In fact, now he can do whatever he wants. Apparently Alan is currently a reincarnated hero who died after the people he saved betrayed him for being too powerful. So as he lives a carefree life in the woods, he notices a nearby commotion. It is Liza Dostella and her bodyguard, Beatrice, fending off golem wolves. He remembers Liza was the one who stood for him when other nobles badmouthed him at some party. Time to go help the girls in trouble. With his power from his last life, he is able to destroy the enemy, although he can't tell the girls about it, including healing Beatrice from her fatal injury. Alan learns that Liza received a prophecy and headed out here only to be attacked. They head to the supposed village and see Akira Kazaragi being kicked out by the village chief. She received the greatest blessing being a hero. They learn from her. While she was wandering in these parts of the border, she stumbled into a girl running away. She was supposed to be a sacrifice for a dragon living nearby. The rest believe this village was built to make a sacrifice for the dragon for its protection. There are no monsters in this vicinity. While the girl is currently safe in hiding, Alan wonders if it is right to intervene. Maybe the villagers want it that way to stay protected. But Akira says the girl, Sarah, wanted her help, so she is going to do something about it. And so the rest tag along to the dragon's hideout. Alan comes up with a theory that his former house might have a connection with the dragon. The dragon is so powerful, so why does it not attack? Hence they may be borrowing the dragon's might to maintain peace at the borders, and hence this remote village was set up just to provide a sacrifice. When they arrive, the dragon attacks. He reveals letting the sacrifice go was part of his plan. The sacrifice wasn't actually needed. He was just bored and wanted to buy time. Akira used all her power but did no scratching. But with Alan, he cut off his wings so easily. Alan was obtaining data, and thanks to Akira's fight, he now knows how to deal with it. The dragon is looking pretty scared now and trying to take hostage. But with Alan's ultimate move, the dragon is destroyed. He notes this isn't the peaceful life he yearns for. But if someone is in trouble, he is more than ready to help. Akira parts ways with the rest as she intends to take in Sarah and can't let her return to her village. Because Alan's sword broke when he defeated the dragon, Akira feels guilty and has no right to wield her own sword. She wants to give it to him, but he declines since she is the only hero around. We see Horace reporting to Craig, Alan's father, about the dragon's defeat. He and his other son, Brett, aren't too happy their plans to kill the hero and Saint have been foiled. They even sent those golem wolves too. They have other plans as they both wait for their chance at revenge against the kingdom and God. Liz has an elf friend, Noel Leonhardt, who is a blacksmith. She will take him there to forge him a new sword. Along the way, we learn Alan and Liz were once betrothed to each other, but it didn't turn out well. At Noel's place, they see her unconscious. She's just asleep. After analyzing Alan's broken sword, she asks if he wants a divine sword forged. He agrees, and so she will forge one for him. Apparently she has her own goal to surpass her late master, Vanessa. Noel kicks out everyone since nobody shall disturb her during her intense forging. As they leave, Mylene is a spy working under Horace as she reports of another bodyguard accompanying Liz. So when Alan goes to sell the dragon scales at the guild, Horace and Mylene approach him on pretense to be interested in tales of how he slew the dragon. After the short talk, they leave. It seems Horace has appraised him and finds him nothing special, though he has Mylene to continue watching him. When the sword is done, Noel has Alan test it out. Alan asks Noel about being a blacksmith because this is usually done by dwarves. She explains she was an orphan and wandered around. Her master, Vanessa, was a dwarf and took her in, teaching her nothing but blacksmithing. Then they stumbled into a monster that took Vanessa's life. Noel becomes infuriated and wants Alan to kill it. Flashback shows when Vanessa was so engrossed in forging a sword, she ignored Noel like she never existed, no matter how much fuss she threw. But when she finished, it was the most beautiful sword she had ever seen. Alan notes that this Fenrir is just sleeping, not attacking. He will not participate in Noel's revenge, but she is free to do so herself as he warns her this sword is not strong enough to break through all of Fenrir's magic barriers. Alan returns to the other girls to learn they are investigating the assassination of General Cyril. Because no shred of evidence was left behind, they believe it is the work of a demon. Speaking of strange people he met, Alan tells his meeting with Horus. Speaking of him, he orders Mylene to kill Lies and Noel, and some spell makes her compelled to oblige. Noel continues to tweak and make the sword better. She remembers the night Horus sent his Fenrir to attack Vanessa as he deemed her talents to be troublesome. Vanessa attacked back, but her sword broke. The Fenrir killed her. It would have killed Noel too, but Akira came to protect her and drove them away. However, Noel was in despair because Akira's sword could do damage. Once she is done tweaking the sword, she goes back to kill Fenrir. Horus shows up and wants Noel to serve him, seeing it would be a waste for her to become Fenrir's meal. He hints at how he destroyed Mylene's village to make her depend on him. Since Noel refuses, she gets to die. Alan is here to save the day. Horus wonders if he should be here instead of guarding Lies. He sent Mylene to assassinate her, but the duo are ready to take her own. Alan had a hunch about it and used some protective spell on them. Lies can tell Mylene is doing this against her own will, and soon Beatrice knocks her out. Horus is confident Alan can't defeat Fenrir, but his sword strike kills it. Horus escapes as Alan brings Noel back to the rest. With Horus's spell gone, Mylene is now free. After revealing her home was destroyed and she has nothing, this hits hard for Noel. She wants Mylene to live with her and keep watch in case she goes after Liza's life again. Mylene is so happy she cries. Alan goes to smoke out Horus. However, it seems a demon colleague killed him already. This demon goes to report to Craig and Brett, who are not impressed the demons are blundering. The demon promises to take the saint's head. Brett wants Father to let him handle the Archbishop's assassination. Flashback shows a young Liza's carriage was attacked by monsters. Although she survived, her uncle died protecting her. Now we see Alan, Liz, and Beatrice entering a sleepy town to find out more about some armored ghost rumor. However, nobody heard about it and is busy preparing for tomorrow's Returning Spirits Festival. They talk to the village chief about it, but he too isn't aware of anything. He hopes they will stay and experience the festival. That night, Liz thought she saw her uncle and went after him. But then she gets attacked by zombies. Luckily, this is just a nightmare. Alan's great timing means Liz has an excuse to stay in his arms for a while. Now we see the festival. While Alan and Beatrice join the crowd, Liz rests, and once again she sees her uncle and follows him into the woods. Liz's hunch was right because they never found his body after that incident. Uncle claims he has been hiding in this village ever since to wait for the exact time for revenge against the royalty whom he hates. Her father, the king, views all those with inborn gifts as a threat that will destroy the kingdom one day. That is why he wants all those like her, Akira, and Noel to be killed. He calls them puppets of God. Uncle wants her to join him to take down the king, but she refuses. Even if what he says is true, she believes in communication. After all, he once told her that believing in people is important. With that, Uncle will kill her and use her corpse. Only Alan to the rescue. He was watching everything and easily breaks whatever puppet strings were controlling Uncle. With that, Uncle reverts to his kind self and reveals that although the king is behind this, he is being controlled by demons. But his hatred towards royalty is genuine because of all those politics. The only thing that brought peace to his tumultuous life was Liz. So he has two favors for Alan. Take care of Liz and spar with him. Obviously Alan is better. Uncle can now cross over in peace. Back at the village, the chief confronts him about knowing stuff. And it seems Alan has known it all from the start, and that he is a demon and the one controlling everybody. He didn't make a move because everybody was living peacefully and didn't want to get involved. So when the chief attacks him, he easily destroys him. Brett admonishes the demon for yet another failure despite having help. But Craig isn't scared. At this rate, nobody can stop them. Alan analyzes the core dropped from the chief and detects Brett's mana. He also noted the true part of Liz's uncle was his head and the rest of his body mixed with some headless soldier. Liz gets an emergency call that Cyril has returned. A flashback when Alan and Brett's mother died. It was a life-changing event, at least for Brett. Craig became cold towards him, and even when Alan tried to help him, Brett refused. Now Alan is no longer here, and hence nobody to compare with. He views himself as the only one fit to rule this world. Edward and Clark are patrolling the streets when the Archbishop calls upon Edward to follow him alone. Obviously, it is a trap, so Edward gets ambushed by Craig. Those mad eyes in Craig look like he has already lost it and views he doesn't need this world anymore. More flashbacks from Brett after Mariel's death. Craig mistreated him until he started to show signs of leveling up. Then Craig turned his attention to Brett and ignored Alan. That was why Brett once lashed out to Alan that even when people scolded him, he did not react, and that's why he wasn't worthy to inherit the house. Brett and the demons have now put their plan in motion. First, the demons corner Akira and Sarah. Knowing they cannot win, they put a self-destruct bomb on Sarah. She is willing to sacrifice herself, but Akira isn't going to abandon her. Meanwhile, Cyril and the Archbishop appear before the crowd to explain how the gifts they get from God are fake, and this only makes them his puppets. The crowd is clearly confused when they tell them to abandon their gifts. They let Brett continue his smooth operator talk to assure them. The crowd gets scared when Brett introduces the demons and says that they will be forming an alliance. They will be lending their powers to replace our gifts. So the confused crowd is assured and cheers on Brett. Edward loses to Craig and realizes the latter has leveled up to a level possibly close to killing God. Edward is saved when Akira is here. Alan previously left a protective barrier on Sarah, and that saved them from doom. Clark is cornered by the demons. However, he still has a duty to protect the people. The demon starts attacking them and could have won had not Beatrice entered the fray. As Brett revels in the crowd's applause. Among the crowd is Alan to rain on his parade. Demon thinks Beatrice will die, so he decides to tell her the truth. Unknown to him, Mylene is recording this and relaying it to Alan, who then plays it aloud to the crowd. The demons want to get rid of all those with high gift powers, as they will be a threat to their goals. Brett is so mad he reveals the failure ruined his schemes. He tries to attack his brother, but fails. Likewise, Beatrice gets rid of the demon. But since demons pop up all over, they need all the help they can get to restore order. Meanwhile, Akira is stumped that Craig can tell every one of her moves. Edward mentions his gift allows him to see multiple futures, although it requires intense concentration. Craig then bitterly rants that he did everything he could to change the future, but Mariel's death was always certain. This means he was utterly useless, like as though her life was just a mere plaything before the gods. Worse, when she gave birth to Alan without any gift and died, it rendered her death meaningless. Basically, he can't get over her death. Craig powers up by tapping into the forbidden demonic powers and is slowly eating away his life. But he doesn't care. He kills off Edward, and Akira would soon follow had Alan not arrived in time. Father and son square off as Craig's power goes berserk, swallowing Alan. This allows Alan to see and even feel his emotions from the past. Clearly, Craig loved Mariel a lot, as it pained him as much too. Alan also blames himself for trying to run away from that weakness. But Alan has the present to protect, and so he destroys this ball of hatred and thanks his father for teaching him the important things in life. Craig disintegrates as things return to normal. In the aftermath, the king awards Alan to become the new duke of his domain, but Alan declines. The king accepts since he expected that. After all, he heard a lot about him, and Alan did his best to protect what's most important to him. Instead, Liz becomes the new head, and to reflect that, she changes her surname to Westfelt. She also wants to tag along with Alan since he is the safest place to be. Alan has plans to do some traveling and maybe find a quiet place to settle down. So his girls have nothing else better to do than to follow him. But Liz has a duty to oversee her domain, so they had to part ways. Along the way, we are reminded how overpowered Alan is, and nothing can stop him. Those dreaded sand wolves with a terrifying reputation. In a flash, Alan destroys them all. When they arrive at a border town, they feel strange since there are too many guards around. Alan then bumps into someone familiar, Henriette Lindqvist, who is the daughter of a marquis. She warns them about some problems in the Empire and says they should go home before they get caught in it. Especially how the Empire's elite night squad, Black Wolf, has been dispatched and given their own discretion to act. Subsequently, Alan talks to Henriette and wants to know if her warning is because she is the daughter of a marquis or disciple of the gods. It seems both of them know each other from their past lives. She is reluctant to say, but hints she was worried about him, and that's why she reincarnated. Shortly, an explosion rocks some buildings. The culprit is running in Alan's direction. Suddenly, he just dies off gruesomely. He is surrounded by Black Wolf and their captain, Lisette, who is suspicious of Alan. Because Alan does not have any gift she can detect, she believes he is hiding it, and that means he is a demon. Suddenly, Alan disappears. Lisette thinks he is a demon and orders all borders shut. Alan is actually whisked away by Mylene. Henriette's foresight has her use her copycat powers to disappear and give the knights the slip. Just when she thought she told him to stay out of trouble, now this. She brings him back to her home, and Alan meets another familiar face. Silas was the butler of the Westfeld home before Alan got banished. Silas and other servants subsequently quit in protest, and Henriette picked them up. Henriette then reveals the real deal that is going on. The Emperor has been assassinated, although that happened a year ago. It is a reason why the Empire didn't make any move when the kingdom was in trouble. It could be the work of demons behind this. That night, Alan talks to Henriette and knows she has been watching him ever since he reincarnated in this world. Otherwise, she would not have hired Silas and others. She brushes it off as coincidental. But she notes he can smile now. Because in his last life, despite being a hero, the people ostracized him, and it hurt him so deeply. Henriette felt hurt too, and that's why she reincarnated here to keep an eye on him to never feel that way again. She's been watching over him ever since. Noel is so bored being cooped up that she starts harassing others. Since Black Wolf is only looking for Alan, Noel gets the green light to go to town with Mylene. She notices other elves staring at her. Some of them try to approach her. Too bad Mylene protects her and takes her away. Back home, Henriette hints that there is a reason why those elves noticed her. Since she wants to know more about herself, Henriette then uses her magic to open a gateway to the secret elven forest. It is located in the exact same space, but in a different dimension. When they walk through the forest, suddenly they are surrounded by elves. They then start to kneel before their queen, Noel. Percival, the sovereign's regent, greets her as he brings them to their home. A few elven kids talk to Noel, but when young boy Philip tries to do so, Percival tells him to come some other time. This frustrates Philip, as he accuses those bad guys of getting to meet the queen but not him. He runs away. Meanwhile, we see Lisette talking to her comrade, Oswald. They are trying to look for the entrance of the elven forest. As the elves give the visitors a welcoming party, Percival talks to Alan about how the elves work better under a monarch. But seeing they have lost one for a long time made them anxious. They were facing a slow death until Henriette showed up. As elves lived in their own world and did not venture out, Henriette bought inventions and items of other cultures for them to enjoy. Slowly, they start to open up and even venture out of their comfort zone. This way, they are slowly starting to live their own lives rather than relying on the monarch. As for the bad guys Philip mentioned, it seems that some elves are demons. Henriette bought them here and convinced the elves to have them live here. Noel faces the dilemma of whether to become the queen, because Mylene is worried she won't play with her again. Hence, Noel reflects her actions. What does she want to become? Her journey with Alan has led her to this. Alan then talks to Henriette because he wants to know more about demons. She reveals that they are not actually a race. Anyone who harbors enough negative emotions will turn into a demon. But there are those who are born out of their demon parents. From that moment, they have been despised and their lives a living hell due to the bias. Hence, Henriette saved those kids who were about to be killed and had them lead new lives in the elven forest. The next day, when those kids hand Noel a beautiful crystal stone, Philip, being the dickhead, throws it away, making them cry. Later, Henriette goes to talk to Philip about his actions. Has those kids done anything to him? Besides, they feel the same way about the queen, like him. Philip realizes he is in the wrong and will go apologize. But soon he is kidnapped by Oswald, who threatens him to show the way to the elven forest. Everybody is having a great feast again. Everyone is so happy, except for Noel. She is still pondering about this royalty thingy. Later, the gang learns from Percival that the elves are pretty lazy people. Because they are connected with the forest, if they wish for any food, the forest will just magically grant them. Alan is thinking of moving here, and this doesn't sit well with Lies, and this leads to a petty argument about Alan being quite close to Henriette. Meanwhile, Henriette returns to her home to see Lisette waiting. Her black wolf has been rummaging through her place as Lisette believes she is harboring the criminal who assassinated the emperor. As signs have shown the perpetrator has not left the borders, the only person who wields such magic to hide such presence is her. Henriette is confident she won't find any evidence here, until Lisette mentions hiding it in the elven forest. Henriette is now panicking. Philip brings Oswald into the elven forest, and they are greeted by Percival. But Oswald starts acting rude, demanding to bring out the criminal. Percival remains polite, but Oswald loses his cool when he sees those demon kids. Forget the criminal. Harboring demons is worst. He attacks them. An explosion is heard as Noel and Mylene race to the scene. Alan is having second thoughts about whether he should care about this. If this were his previous life, he would have gone without hesitation. But he is a hero no more and just wants a peaceful life. Percival protects the kids, and even Philip stands up to protecting them. Oswald is willing to kill them, but luckily Noel and Mylene save the day. Eventually, it is Alan since his special eyes could see through Oswald's explosive tricks. Oswald is defeated, and Alan is now having second thoughts about whether he wants to settle down here. Henriette then pops up with good news that the border blockades have been lifted, so they better hurry on home. Noel decides to return with Alan rather than staying and becoming queen. There is much she needs to learn, and before she becomes queen, she needs to know the world and hence will continue her travels with Alan. The elves will always be waiting here for her. Once all that is settled, we see Henriette returning and getting arrested by Lisette. As part of the deal to let Alan and others go, she will take the blame and become the main suspect in assassinating the emperor. Alan wants to leave now before they get into trouble. And just like that, he jinxed it because a guy named Curtis comes in to plead for help to save his sister. They hear him out that she has been taken away by Black Wolf and is accused of assassinating the emperor. Worse, Henriette has made enemies of many nobles as she bucked the trend. Alan later contemplates this. Furthermore, Curtis knows they are friends of Henriette. They have suspicion, but eventually they decide to go with Curtis, and tagging along is his bodyguard in big knight armor. Alan asks straight about how he knows them. Curtis explains he is a lesser branch of the Lindqvist family, and Henriette from the main branch is actually his cousin. Whenever he was down, Henriette was there to talk to him. But since his family never liked Henriette and kept him away, all he could do was watch her from afar. The same reason he knew them as he saw them meet Henriette at her place. Also the same reason he could only see her being taken away. Meanwhile, Henriette is being under the watchful eye of Lisette. She learns that Oswald has been pardoned despite his failure because their objectives to capture the Emperor's assassin have been achieved. So everything else has been turned a blind eye upon. Alan and others arrive outside the royal capital, and it seems the place is under lockdown. The people are unhappy, but Curtis believes it is because of them that the lockdown order was in place. It is suggested they split up and look for information. Lies seems awfully happy to go with Alan alone. In a bar, a black wolf shows up and demands any info about a group of travelers with the intention to plunge the kingdom into chaos. At first, nobody is cooperative until the knight offers 100 gold as a reward. Alan and Lies make a run as the knight goes after them. Thanks to an accident causing a boy injury, the knight drops the chase to tend to him. Soon, an explosion will be nearby. Oswald is taking Noel and Mylene hostage. Alan is fast enough as he cuts off Oswald's arm. However, Oswald expected that. Knowing he could never beat Alan, he has rigged everyone in town with an explosion. He wants to see Alan's face of despair before he dies. Flashback to Alan's past life. The little kid whom he saved was ungrateful. Hence Alan is now contemplating whether he should save these people who are not his responsibility. In present, Alan does his super time-stopping move to cut all of Oswald's explosives. Oswald is in shock at what just happened. Before Alan could kill him, Celia Bartless wants to take custody of Oswald. As part of the Black Wolf's vice captain, she will take responsibility to punish her own men. Alan doesn't trust her, so she swears it in her name. Alan lets Oswald go. When the gang returns, the town's lockdown has been lifted. This stumps Alan because it feels like Black Wolf was looking for somebody else. Celia contacts Lizette about the lifting order. It seems the whimsy higher-ups decided on that. On Oswald's punishment, Lizette tells her to let him be, and the higher-ups will take care of him. Since he bit the hand that feeds him, he will face their judgment. Now we see some demonic shroud devouring Oswald, who already knew this fate was coming. Alan and the rest ponder how to get in town. Realizing there is no way an odd group like them would get a travel permit, this leads to Curtis suggesting using the underground tunnels. It was once built as an emergency escape for the royals, but was hardly ever used. As Alan and the girls traverse underground, it seems some Black Wolf Knights are here. Moreover, Lizette is waiting for them and has business with Alan. Alan tells his girls to move along and promises to catch up. Both fight, and Alan knows she is holding back. Lizette remembers Henriette's promise not to kill them. Soon the fight is postponed as the ceiling caves in. The girls are worried about it, but here's Alan. As they rest, Alan pays a visit to Henriette's room using teleportation. Henriette claims that even if she is accused of assassination, it will soon be false charges, and she will be set free. After all, she comes from a powerful noble family, and you bet they don't want an incident from her head rolling. She teases Alan, who came because he was worried. It backfires because, yes, he is worried. She tells him to go away and doesn't need his saving. The next day, Curtis wants the rest to leave. Because if word gets out that Alan and others are trying to save Henriette, they might think their kingdoms would be abetting the assassination and hence plunging all sides into war. Curtis will think of something to save Henriette himself and hopes they will leave quietly. Alan accepts it. Later, as Henriette is transferred to a dungeon cell, she is shocked to be reunited with Curtis. Curtis proudly claims he is the mastermind behind it all, though he didn't kill the Emperor and the royal family and merely scared them. Curtis' goal is to become the Emperor, and for that, he needs Henriette's help. Of course, she is not impressed and will not help him. She chides him instead. If he wants to become Emperor so badly, do it himself. Leave her out of this. She doesn't care about his petty revenge whatsoever. Curtis will let her think, and when he comes back, wants a favorable answer from her. Curtis then goes to talk to Lizette since she is under his contract. Despite her failure to kill Alan, Curtis is fine with it since Alan has left and won't be returning. Lizette then leaves a book of heroic tales for Henriette. In heaven, when she was an angel, she loved reading such tales. However, she dislikes how heroes always get killed in the end. That's why she helped Alan a lot, although sadly, his fate remained the same. Curtis returns. Henriette's answer, still no. In fact, Henriette wants to die and dares him to kill her. She isn't even fazed when Curtis threatens to send an assassin to kill Alan or even burn the elven forest. Curtis beats her up and runs away to trash his own room. Alan and his girls are getting supplies to leave the kingdom. However, Liz has second thoughts about saving Henriette, even if she herself doesn't want it. Then they approach by the big knight, and it turns out to be Celia, and she supports Liz's idea. Curtis is back again to torture Henriette with his demon powers. Luckily, Alan and Celia are here to put a stop to his devilish plan. Flashback shows a demon approached Curtis and would lend his powers. So Curtis thought it was a good idea to become emperor since he could get anything he wanted. Although hesitant, he got a taste of that demon's power and became violent. Curtis stabbed the demon, but the demon absorbed into him. Now he has turned into his demonic form, although Alan easily defeats him. In fact, Alan knew about the whole thing the whole time. He just cannot understand why he sought their help in the first place. Since Curtis insists he wants to become emperor, Alan believes what he actually wants is Henriette. Because what will he do if he becomes emperor? Curtis is confused as Alan adds that what he is doing only hurts the person he loves. Henriette pities him and tries to talk to him, but Curtis shows his ugly side. He believes Alan is at fault. Because of him, Henriette will not look at him. Now he turns into a hideous form in his desperate attempt, but this time Lizette enters the fray. She knew he would lose, so she is switching sides. Alan cannot be bested as he strikes down Curtis. In another dimension, we see Alan and Curtis having a man-to-man talk. Curtis was wondering if Alan, having such powers, could have anything he wanted. Alan isn't interested in politics or world dominance to begin with. He just wants to live his own peaceful life. Curtis could only dream that if he had such powers, people would have acknowledged him. Perhaps Henriette would be his. Alan isn't so quick to agree on that since his hands have been tainted. Since it is hard for Henriette to thank Alan, she snaps at him for coming to save her. In the aftermath, it is said Curtis joined forces with the demon to assassinate the Emperor, and Henriette was executed. The Lindqvist family came to an end. That is all a cover-up, so Henriette can now join Alan and freely travel with him.